Hello, and thank you for attending the virtual THOA conference and my particular presentation. My name is Melissa Thurman. I am a teacher in Richardson ISD. I've been there for the last 5 years, teaching at Lake Highlands High School and a few of their other high schools. This year, I'm transitioning to Richardson High School. Background and specialty or love are the freshmen and sophomores. I I have taught them for the most by choice for the last 5 years, actually 7 years, because I was at Irving ISD at Singley Academy my 2 years prior. My background is nursing, but my passion is teaching. And so I am delighted to come give you a talk on how to build relationships and set up your classroom management today. Um, and let's get started. All right. We are building the relationships and look at the teacher word. I've highlighted some of the things I think are really important far as um, the two word key components to relationships, and that is, and having a successful school year is building and connecting and building those relationships with your students um, to be successful this year. All right, so what we're going to be talking about, what you're going to learn today is building those classroom relationships will equal classroom success. It's directly related, and you will see a big difference if you've been teaching a while and maybe this is something you struggle with, how this will help your class be successful. It also, building relationships will improve the classroom management in your classroom. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well, and then some pitfalls that can prevent you from building those relationships and trust with students. Unfortunately, when you get a pitfall, it's really hard to recover. It's not impossible. It just takes longer, and you kind of have to start back to square one. But it's okay um, if you happen to hit a pitfall. But we're going to talk about pitfalls so maybe you can help avoid them. And then we're going to talk about some things that help with your classroom management and building those relationships and giving the students ownership to the classroom management part. That would be social contracts, um, good things that we do in class, or we just take some time for just good things, and how to open and close your class launches is what they are called, and just how to set that up. And then class jobs that will build trust that you can give to students. We'll talk about that as well, and I'll give you some resources to follow up with. Um, so that is my plan for this talk, and I hope you enjoy it. So why do you want to build relationships? Significantly, relation. I'm sorry. Let me start all over here. It is scientifically proven that when you build a lasting and trusting relationship in your classroom with your students, it will improve their learning and enhances their learning. We also know that it will increase student motivation. Think about it. Students want to do more for teachers they care about and they know care about them. They are You see more of a disappointment when they don't do something right in your class when you've established this relationship, because you have invested in them and they are investing back in you. Their attendance is going to improve. If they're not coming to class, but they'll want to come because they enjoy your class. And you may be that one time in the day that they really feel missed and respected and even cared about. I had a principal tell me one time about a couple students that were skipping, that they seem to hit your class but they don't go to any of the other classes in the day. That's not by coincidence. It's what you do and how you build that relationship. It really makes a difference. And their attendance will improve because they'll enjoy being there. It also, research has shown, when you build a trusting environment, it leads to a safe learning environment, which that helps students take more risk and venture out where they may not have done. So they will actually maybe learn more, do more, try more because they feel safe to do that. So that is one of the really cool things about building trusting relationships. It also builds confidence in your student because they're able to take those leaps and those risks. They see that they're successful at it, they can do it. Even if they're not successful, they see they are able to do that, and it builds their confidence because then they know they can do it again, or they can are able to try again. So, Rita Pearson is an educator. She's no longer living, but she did some TED Talks, and she came from a family of educators. And so she says some really cool things like kids don't learn from people they don't like. Think about classes that you personally have had where you didn't like the instructor. Were you more apt to listen? Were you more apt to do the work? Were you more apt to take notes? Most likely not. So you probably didn't get the best learning benefit from that teacher. Kids don't learn from people they don't like. Now, James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. That's really important. And that also backs up the fact that we were talking about this is scientifically proven. So if we cannot build this relationship, then how are they going to have that significant moment, that learning moment in our class? So remember, no significant learning can go without significant relationships. So if you want your class to do the best they can for this year, you've got to invest in building the relationships. So, once again, no significant learning occurs without significant relationships. So, just build and build and build. Now, I know there are some students that are really hard to build that relationship with. That's when we have to come in and work the little extra harder, the extra mile, but it really does pay off in the long run. So, how do you build relationships? How building relationships helps classroom management? When you build a relation, it's the single most important thing you can do for your classroom management, building that relationship. Think about this. Um, when the students like you, when the students respect you, they are more apt to speak up for you in issues in the classroom, as well as they are more apt to want to do better for you. So, and that is super important. Now, there's one thing that I encourage you to do, and this one's going to be really hard, and it's called the 2-10 rule. You spend 2 minutes a day for 10 days with your most challenging students. You're like, what? You want me to spend 2 minutes a day, 10 days a week, or for 10 days with the student I may have the most challenge with, that I may not want to be around, that I may want to avoid, that I go, yay, when they're not there? Yes, I do. Um, what you're going to do in those 2 minutes a day, and think about it, you have 24 hours in a day, and this is only requiring 2 minutes of those 24 hours. But what you're going to do is you're going to spend time with them and ask them open ended questions. Ask them about themselves. Ask them what sports they play. Do they do extracurricular activities? What is their favorite thing to do at home? But make sure they're open ended. Don't give them a chance just to say yes or no. Make the question something that they have to respond to. Build that trust, build that relationship. At the end of 10 days, you know that most challenging student pretty well. And you can say quite a minute few things: what makes them tick, what makes them don't. You can even ask them, what are their pet peeves? What that makes your day hard? It'll make a big difference in your life. And then the next 10 days, do another student. And the next 10 days, do another student. And we all have more than one class. So you could do one student per class per 10 days. But start with those most challenging students. Now, if it's your first time with those students, it may be hard to tell which student is going to be your most challenging. So if you need to start with the quietest student, or the one that seems like the shyest, or whatever it might be, start there. And then as you get to know your class, pick those challenging students out and spend 2 minutes a day for 10 days asking them open ended questions that they have to respond to. This is going to build trust and rapport. And either way, you're going to need to build that with your whole group. Another thing that a lot of people do that I don't have on here is they send notes to students per week, per class, a note every day. They also send notes home. Think about the amount of calls we do for problems in our class, or for people not passing. Think about how much those kids have to listen to their parents on that, or their parents. When you call a parent and tell them a good thing, it makes a big difference. Or write the student a note and say, "Hey, I really appreciated when you stepped up and did this in class." It makes a big deal, and they'll want to do it more because we like recognition. So why wouldn't the students like it? So think about that. And then build that rapport and trust with your students. And then let students see you as human. Remember, they're learning from us. We are their role models. And for some students, you may be the only positive role model they have. So you have to be that good role model. And it's okay to show them that you're human. And it's okay to apologize when you do something wrong. Let me repeat that. It is okay to apologize when you do something wrong. All right? Think about this. We are teaching our students as a career technology class professional skills. All right. What are some professional skills that are so um, valuable? Think about integrity, um, admitting when you're right or wrong. Think about how important that is, especially in healthcare, to stay and, hey guys, I gave the wrong dose of insulin or I gave it to the wrong patient, so we can intervene with that. If you show them it is okay to apologize and admit when you're wrong, that will show them they can apologize and admit when they're wrong. And remember, you are their role model and you are their professional role model for those professional skills we want to teach them. Many of our students may not be learning that at home, or probably aren't. And some of theirs may not even be doing they may not have the positive. I know, for example, I had one student that would eat my class every day, her freshman and sophomore year. Um, she wasn't even in my class, but she knew me and she knew two kids that would eat my class as well. And she would sit back and talk about her mom, how many places her mom has gotten kicked out of, who cannot go, and including Walmart and Whataburger. So I was just like taken back because sometimes their behavior is learned from home and their negative behavior is learned from home. So we need to reinforce that with our positive behavior and give them a positive role model. So, classroom management is not your tips and tricks. It's not what you can do or do better. However, it is very important in your evaluation, as we know. But it is how we relate to speak, encourage, guide, and care for each of our students. All right. It is not just our tips and tricks, it is how we relate, speak, encourage, and guide and care our students. And that is so important in building relationships. So let's talk about how to build those relationships with the students. I try to make a little better slide for you, but and I had a whole long list, but this we're just going to talk about some. First of all, be at the door. Meet them when they're before they ever come to your classroom. When you greet them, shake their hands. You can catch on to nonverbal cues. You can gauge how their day is going. You can frankly ask them, "How are you doing today?" And if they tell you, "Hey, I'm not doing so well, Miss," then you know what kind of day you could expect in your class. You also know to maybe watch out when you're calling on students that day, or if they seem to be getting on your nerve, to maybe give them a little break so we're not yelling back at them or being sarcastic with them in a wrong time. So being at the door, giving them that handshake, will tell you a whole lot about how that hour in your class is going, or hour and a half. The also is we are, remember, professional, teaching them professional skills because we're a career class. So giving them that solid handshake at the door teaches them the importance of a handshake and how to do a handshake. Yeah, it's going to be really weird at first and students are going to be very awkward, but they get used to it. And then if you have, then you can, once you get past that basic handshake, you could do cool little handshakes for classes or whatever. And you'll find that you'll have students step up and want to be that leader at the door to do those handshakes, which, and that is really awesome because they want to take ownership for that. However, you still want to be that teacher at that door, gauging those nonverbals and how is that student and how's that student day going. Also, your student needs to know They're more than just a number in your class. They need to know that you care, because if you care, they'll see a reason to come to school. If Think about all the students that come that maybe the teachers, especially the quiet ones, the teachers never call on, they never talk to, they never maybe even know their names. Because honestly, the first kids I learn are the kids that are the troublemakers, or that are loud, or they do something crazy that makes me remember them, not that quiet person that's going to sit in the back of your room. So know their name, call them by their name, and meet them at the door. Let them know you are happy they are in school today, because that may be the only reason why they came, is because they knew you would notice them. And it was actually, especially with mental health, says a lot about, and research about mental health on students um, who may have thought of doing harm to themselves or something else. When some teacher actually stopped and asked them how they were doing, it changed their mindset. So you don't know what you're going to be doing for these students, but be at the door, know their names, greet them. Even if you have student greeters, greet them at the door, and then build that community in your class. The community in your class, um, that means you're going to have to move tables and move people around throughout the year. That is probably my hardest thing to do, because I don't want to shake up my good groups and mess up. I mean, I don't want my bad people to go mixing into my good people, or I just don't want to have that. Oh, miss, we don't want to move class. Okay, do we have to move chairs? No, I want to sit here. I want to sit. They need to move around. They need to know everybody in the class, and you need to break up those groups, because you don't want cliques, and you don't want someone to feel off in the class. And they need to know their other students. So build that community, move those chairs around, move people around. And when I do it, I always say, hey, I moved you to this group because you're a great leader. And I think you could help this group a lot. It will really enhance what you're doing in your class. So don't be afraid to move students around. And then confer with the students. I walk around. I hardly ever am at my desk. And when they're in group time, I go sitting in each group and ask them how they're doing. Discuss individually with that group what's going on, but confer with your students. Also, talk to them. Make the class a little bit of a democracy where they can decide. Even last year, I tried, and we didn't do it very long because it was really more crazy and took more class time than I wanted to. But I actually had lawyers and police officers that would bust students on bad behavior or things they weren't doing right in class. And then the lawyers would defend them or prosecute them in class on Friday. And the class would decide what they should get done. Now, it actually was pretty cool, and it pointed out a lot to other students, but it really did take up a lot of time. But you could do that if you had that. And you could set it as a 5-minute rule. We're going to have a 5-minute court, and we're going to decide the punishment of the student for doing such and such. So, but confer with your students, ask their advice. And as we talk about behavior contracts, or yeah, behavior contracts and social contracts, you'll see how including the students in some of this decision making on how the class should be ran, or what is a disagreement and how do we handle disagreements, your class is going to be so much better for you. So I'm going to show you this video. It's really cool. And teacher, of course, she's got elementary. It'd be really hard to do in high school, but it's still cool. She actually has a personal handshake for every student. So I'm going to let you watch it, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so that was a really cool way of personalizing handshakes for each student. Think about how each student would feel by having that personal relationship or that personal handshake that you and them they created for just them. That's really cool. Now we have a whole lot more students, so that would be really hard. But those handshakes, maybe you have four different handshakes based on the mood that you are coming into my classroom with. Now, of course, I don't know with COVID how our handshakes will be at the door with a personal touch. We may have to do contactless handshakes and had maybe a high or like a wave or something like that. But just to see how that student is entering your classroom and building that relationship with them. So this is one. Some do it for moods. Some do it for just we a lot of times just do a personal handshake, but just something to kind of make that student feel a little more comfortable in your classroom. So, some relationship killers that can hurt what you're building and what you're growing in your class. Number one is probably sarcasm. And I was the worst. I still am the worst at sarcasm. But we also have to think about not everybody has that sarcastic humor. They don't always see sarcasm as humorous. And then if you offer your ELL students, if you look at them, sarcasm is not in many languages, it's more of an American thing. So they don't understand that our sarcasm is our dry humor or a joke. So they can take it very wrong and they can be offended by it. And once you've offended them, it's going to be really hard to bring them back to your class. Unfairness is probably another big one. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. And you'll hear it even in your being fair. Your students will say, "Man, you're not fair. You didn't holler at those groups over there." But they didn't see you go over there and talk to their group. They just saw you coming to their group and talking to their group. So that unfairness have to be fair. And one great way to be fair is to be consistent. Have a set plan, have a management goal, have a step by step process in your discipline plan or even in your rewards plan. You can't just reward one or another. You have to have a reason. So that be consistent. Inconsistency, if they don't see routine, they don't see you following through consistently, they know they can get by with it. So don't make sure you are following through and all that. And then arguing with the student in class. How many times have we gotten to our point where we have had an argument with a student in class? I know one. This one was going on and she's standing up and she's raising her voice and I you have to think of this because you're going to be heated, it is going to bug you, it may, and if it's that right student it's going to rub you wrong, but you have to think. And what I was and you have to remember you are above them, they are still as a teenager and they still have those immaturity and the hormones and the brain development that we have already done, so we can't come down to their level. So what I have done when arguing with the student class, instead I don't raise my voice, I don't get close, I don't point fingers, and I don't get in their face. I just say, you know what? This is what I'm going to do for this moment. I'm going to go over here, do the referral, or I'm going to go ahead and, put you on what we're going to do a write up. I'll see you at detention and leave it there. Don't go into it. Don't feed into their talking. Just leave it. Say, this is what I'm going to do. And because of your behavior, this is what I'm going to do. All right. And then the next day when they come into class, meet them at the door and talk. Just, it's a new day. Whatever happened yesterday was yesterday. So it's a new day, and maybe remind them of what we want to do in class, and just that we're starting all over today. And it's a new day. And then watch your tone and body language. I'm one that gets super excited. And when I get excited, I get loud. But that loudness sometimes can be taken as anger or something different. So watch the tone and, of course, body language. We know body language will speak more than what you're actually speaking. So when you watch those negative body languages, the rolling of the eyes that we all do, the that, or and so, or the closed mindedness. And I know I like to put my hands up here, but put them to your side or have them out where you can shake. But the body language that we do says more than what we say. So just remember that. And also, as you're maybe your program is growing and is going in a different direction, and you don't always agree, but you have to come as a united front to your students. So you have to kind of put some of those off for you. Um, this is mine, House, because I used to love House, but they're like, it says, "Don't like my sarcasm? Oh, I don't like you're stupid." Um, Most of us may want to say that, but remember, sarcasm is one of the biggest killers in a relationship that you can have, especially with our students that are not from America, because they don't have that. And even then, if you think about an Asperger's kid who may not have those social connections or how to read that social situation. And then there are also some of our at greatest, highest function Asperger's kids are learning how to do social by what we do. So if we teach them sarcasm, they're going to be sarcastic, but they may not come off as humorous sarcasm. So just remember, sarcasm can kill you. All right, so let's go into behavior management, letting those students own their own behavior management, allowing the first few days of your class, maybe even the first week, to get to know your students and the students getting to know other students in your classroom. You need to build that community. So you need to allow them even the first week, maybe 2 weeks, get them to know, use activities that will build teamwork, get them activities that may make them have to go meet each other, like the bingos that we play and all kinds of, the shoes or the building a line. But make them build that teamwork. And then keep calm and teach on even when your students don't. All right. So, whatever you have, make it a teaching moment. Keep calm. Because remember, the tone and body language that you use is going to be one of those things that could be a relationship killer. And we would rather make it a relationship builder. So, keep calm even when your whole class is not being calm or when things just go beyond your control. Think about it. You have a fire drill that they didn't tell you about, and all of a sudden your class is disrupted. Keep calm and teach on. And then most professional, model your professionalism and teach them employability skills. Use them as moments to teach them because that we are also trying to teach them how to maintain and keep a job and have a career. So we have to teach them how to do that. Model it. Remember, we are their role models. So keep a routine. um, don't even when it kind of goes off because it's not going to happen every single day. Something's going to go up in your class. Something's going to get changed. But keep the routine as much as possible. Keep those bell ringers. Launch the class the same every day. End the class the same. But keep that routine so the students know what to expect in your class. When you break, I know my class most time when I'm out of my routine is when I see more problems and chaos going. When I get interrupted by my principal, or when I have to take a call because it's my health science director, that's when I see the students kind of go awkward on their own, or you don't get started right away because you're doing something at the door or helping a student. So as best as possible, keep your routine. It will be the most helpful thing you do in teaching. And then we're going to talk about launches, but I launch your class at the beginning and the end of class. It's something that starts them thinking and gets them in the mindset of your class and takes them out the door so they know what to do to prepare and be confident outside your classroom. That is what a launch will do for you. And that's actually taken from Capturing Kids' Hearts. Many of your students or your districts may do that, and many of these tips I'm going to teach you it is capturing kids' heart, but they work. And fortunately, we have to bring people into our districts to teach teachers how to build relationships. But not all teachers do. But I know y'all are going to do great at it. But that is one of the things that if you ever get a chance to do capturing kids' hearts, or you want more things in your toolbox for building that relationship, it's always good to do some of these programs that a lot of times they do bring them into our districts. The other thing I do is set rewards and consequences. Have a behavior plan. Have step one, step two, and I always model mine to a profession because we're in a career class. So I always do, first one, you're going to get a verbal warning. Second time, you're going to get a written warning, and we're going to talk about it. And third time, you're going to second warning. We're going to do an action plan, and you're going to owe me time after class. And that's when I'll probably call parents. And the fourth time, after you've done two of those um, written warnings, um, I'm going to do the office referral, and we're going to talk to parents, and then you're going to lose privileges in my class. So those are some of the things we do that set up so the students know I'm on step, 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 step. You can't just up, I'm doing a referral just for that. So give them model that consequences and the steps to a consequence. The other thing that I do better at is rewards, because I rather positively reinforce my students than negative. So I will every Friday. Last year I did a little. If they earned tickets throughout the week, they could put them in the bucket, and if they wanted, and they could be in for the rewards. And they were like snacks and pencils and anything I could find that wasn't too expensive. But the kids enjoyed reward time, and I had a prize patrol team that drew my rewards, so it wasn't me. It was a group of students, and that prize patrol changed every 6 weeks or every 9 weeks, because we do 9 weeks. But you could change it every 6 weeks, change it every 4 weeks, once a month. But you change the jobs in the class for the students, and that was really well. Some are going to be like, man, this is too elementary, but truthfully, they're going to like it. They're going to like getting their name drawn. And I say, we're going to draw. Maybe I had 25 names in there. I'm going to say we're going to draw 10 of them today, and 10 people are going to get a reward. Um, if you don't have a lot of money, that could be a free homework pass. That could be get out of jail free when you're late one time, something like that for a tardy pass. It could be adding 10 points, because I did let them save their rewards, and if they had 8 or more rewards in a 9-week period, I would add 10 points to their overall grade. So something like that you might do to help them out, but those rewards that you can give them. And then we're going to also talk about social contracts, but set a social contract. Your social contract should not be set until your students know each other and they have kind of created that ownership of your class. And then set guidelines and always follow through. Always, consistency is one of the best things you can do. Routine and consistency. Routine and consistency. The last thing I missed was I have actual um, jobs my class does. I set ambassadors. Those ambassadors are going to meet or greet anybody that walks through my room, a new student, um, principal, anybody visiting, because we've had visitors in our room to see our program. So I would set that ambassador, and that ambassador is going to go greet those people at the door, give them a handshake, tell them what our class is about and what to expect in our class. They're also your ambassadors when you have a sub. And you're out to help the sub with what's going on in the roles of your class. And then I also give roles for each group, like timekeepers for when we're doing group work, because I lose track of time. I even tell the timekeepers, I usually have 2 a quarter, and I tell them, you need to tell me when I have like 3 minutes left of class, so that I know to wrap up and start that launch. So, because I don't always pay attention, especially if I'm busy talking and doing in class. And then team leaders and recorders. These are jobs that you can give your students to do to be successful and help. And I also, if there's that one person that's really good about keeping people like on task, make them the task keeper. And then I've also had social workers that actually set it in their groups, because they all had the same group or a family or community for the week or the month. That social worker was kind of like, hey, I noticed you're not talking today, or you didn't get your assignment done. What can I do to help you be more successful in the class? It's not a negative thing. It's just more to help them. Or, hey, I see that you got your phone out. Remember, we can't have our phones out right now, so you might want to turn it upside down so you're not looking on it. Kind of, I set my social workers as those people that will help them before I catch them. All right, so that's kind of that. And I think they'd rather be busted by a friend than me. So, the thing is, the hand signals. Okay, so hand signals are kind of like in a game that referee signals. The hand signals get your class kind of back on task, or kind of let them know, hey, something's occurred that's not right. And so, like, for example, check yourself. When you got maybe 3 or 4 or more people in your classroom that are off task, that are talking, give them a thumbs up. And it's just, hey, check yourself. Remember what we're doing. Let's get back on task. And that's kind of a general reward before you have to go out and talk to them. And then you might do a timeout, especially now. This isn't just for bad, or like, oh, hey, timeout. It's not necessarily just for bad. If they're doing a group work and something has been brought to your attention, that something is not so clear for maybe 1 or 2 groups, and you want to share that with the rest of them, give them a timeout signal. You can also have a word that you say, but it's just to get everybody to be quiet. That your attention's needed. You need to speak. Some people do signal words. And like one year I did signal words, and one of my student or my classes picked, because I let the classes pick their signal word. One picked Grey's Anatomy because they all want to watch it. And so when every time I said Grey's Anatomy, everybody knew to be quiet. And 1 or 2 people would say it once I heard it at their table, so the rest of their table knew I said it. And then they were all quiet, and I was able to give them what I needed to do. And then a foul is when someone does something to a student, and this was I have a zero tolerance for putting students down or negative language. And negative language is not just foul language. It's something that may be taken negatively. So I will give them a foul and tell them, hey, you just committed a foul in my class. And and the students will go, oh, and I'll say, this is what you did. Now you need to give me 2 put-ups for that same foul. And if it's toward the class, you got to uplift the class. Give me 2 happy thoughts, encouraging words for the class. If it's for a particular individual, they have to do it for that individual. It that one's really one of the more fun ones, because your class will become a part of that, and they will become ones that, hey, we got a foul over here, we got a foul, and then they will hold each other accountable for their negative language, as I like to say. All right. So social contracts. Social contracts, I would not build them until your team has established their community and they know their people. So each class, so about 2 weeks into class, I would take one class day to set up social contracts. Now, social contracts are what your students are going to hold to the standard of the behavior for the whole class. And the thing about it is they are going to create that. So they are going to have the input. So when you talk to them, and they're going to sign it. I mean, I use a big old poster board. We create it and then we sign it. And then everybody in the class signs it, that they agree to do, that they're going to do this. And then you can refer them to the social contract when something's not going right. All right. And these are also the questions that you're going to ask when someone is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So those 4 questions are, what are you doing? And they'll be, oh, I'm doing my work, miss. And I'm like, no, what are you doing? And, oh, well, I'm on my phone. Okay, so what are you supposed to be doing? Oh, well, I'm supposed to be working with my group and talking about this. Okay, so what are you going to do right now then? And they're like, oh, I'm going to put my phone away and get back to work. And then, so what are you going to do about that? All right, and you can ask that 5th question. So next time I catch you on your phone, what do you think is going to happen? And that's when they, well, I'll probably get a consequence. So you can add that 5th question if you want. But these are how we're going to start and think about, as we create our social contracts, these 4 questions. What are you doing? What are you really supposed to be doing? What are you doing right now? And what are you going to do about that? All right, it just kind of refocuses and redirects. I would not yell at them about this. It's very calm and said, what are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? What are you doing right now? And what are you going to do about it? All right. So these are the things as a teacher you can promise. And I always like this. As a teacher, I promise I'll be in 3 places: in front of you to cheer you on, behind you to have your back, and next to you so you're not walking alone. And that's really kind of what we're doing as we set this up and have that relationship with ours. So the social contract. This is the agreement or behavior, and the goal is to be a self-managing group. That's why we want to have a social contract. So when you're doing that, remember those 4 questions. We're also going to be thinking, okay, as we do the 4 questions, this is how we want the leader to treat us, the teacher, or whoever's in our room that may be teaching. How do you want to be treated by others, your peers? How do I want to treat the leader or who's above us, and how do you want to treat each other when there's a conflict. So these are the four things that are going to be answered on our social contract. So a lot of times you'll see respect. I want someone to be helpful. I want to be fair. I want to be understanding. I want to have a good diversity. And I want all opinions. I mean, open mindedness. And so those are things you're going to see how they really want to be treated. And you'll see that how they want to be treated is how they want you to treat them as well. They want you to respect them. They want to have you to be open-minded. They want you to be fair, and so, but they also want their peers to be that. So you're going to see it very similar. So I would make the groups pick out what they're doing and what they're like, how they want to be treated, all that. Make their list, and then come together as a group with each of these questions, and say, okay, now let's make a list for the class. And you'll make this big long list of the class, and you say, okay, what are our top 5 things we want to be treated like. And those are going to go on your social contract because you may not have room for all of them. Now, you can make a cool little social contract with the word puzzle thing, but it's really neat to see that. Now, then once you've created that social contract, the last question you need to ask is how are we going to treat conflicts? Because conflicts are going to happen. Not everybody's going to agree. So how do we want to treat? And then they'll say, well, I want you to be fair. I want you to be honest. I want a cool off period and to come back to it. And I want to be heard equally, whatever it might be. So then you're going to write that little bit on how we're going to how we will handle contracts by in your social contract, and that's what they're going to do with that. And so then they're going to see that, and then when there is a conflict or when someone's not treating someone right, you refer them to this social contract that they signed, that they created, that they're a part of class. Now, what happens when you get a new student in your class and you've already created a social contract? What we do is we usually have a greeter for new students, and they explain our social contract to them, and that takes that off of you. And then they say, is there anything you think we should add to that social contract? And they most time will say no, but if they do, you can ask the class, hey class, would you like to add this to our social contract? And if they do, you sign it or put it on there, and then you have new students sign their social contract. And I do one for each class period. And they may look similar, but they're going to have some differences as well. The other thing I called my social contracts, because we're healthcare, call them the Hippocratic Oath of the class. So it kind of, and we talked about the Hippocrates and the Hippocratic Oath, and then we went into social contracts. So that's kind of my fun part of it because we try to making it more medical. But do your social contract. Now I would, because each semester your class may look a little different and change, you may want to redo the social contract for second semester. Or if your class isn't and they all still agree, or at least have that point in your class in second semester, they're like, hey, let's review our social contract. What do we need to change about it? What do we need to add? You can recreate that and update it and keep it updated in your class. All right. So now good things. Good things are fun to do, but the hardest thing for your students to do. And you don't have to do them every day. I would do 2, 3 times a week because sometimes your class is just frankly too busy to step aside from all the classwork and do a good thing. But good things are letting the students talk about what is going good in their life. You're going to hear crazy things, and you may have the hardest time at first getting any student to do a good thing, but they may talk about, hey, I got a puppy, or my dog had surgery and did well, or my sister didn't beat me up today, or whatever it might be. But every give 3 to 5 students, or even 10 students if you have a lot, time to share their good things. And I play a little thing where they know it's good times, a song, good things. No, no, one of the good things, whatever. I can't remember the words, but I'll play a song that they know it's coming so they can start thinking, what are the good things? And then I'll let the song play a little bit, and then I will do the good things. The first students, they are very reluctant to share, but then they get into it. Now, here's good things will build relationships because it may get students who won't talk during your class time or your lecture time to talk, because everybody's okay with talking about good things. But they may not be comfortable about talking about what they learned in class because they may not be sure about it. So it gives people time to talk that you may not hear from. And I would always rotate who's talking, especially if there's a lot of people who want to share. Don't always make it the same person every time. And you may give this to some student to give, hey, why don't you do our good things for us? And they will start maybe give them on Tuesdays and Fridays, good things. Um, or maybe your thing you do on Wednesdays, get over hump day, is let's share some good things. So you may want to do that. But there's some rules doing good things. There can be no negative comments, and everyone's listening. All right. And so um, if someone says, "Hey, I got a puppy," somebody else can't say, "Well, why would you want to have a puppy? They make messes in your house and tear up." So whatever good thing, and even if it was one of those things where like, that's a good thing, you got to be encouraging, and it can't have any not negative comments to their good thing. And everybody in the class is listening. They stop what they're doing, and they're listening to the good things. So that is good things. Now, launches are things you do to start and end your class. And usually, some people put these are some examples of launches. You may put them above your door as they walk out. It's kind of like, the mascot symbol in the locker room as they're going out to the game. They all hit that mascot with their hand and high five it or whatever. Launches are that thing to get them out, get them going, get them encouraged to do well. It may also be something that starts your class based on what you're doing. So your launch to start your class may be something that gets them thinking about your day, your class time. The ending is going to be something encouraging to keep them going. So, for example, here's follow your heart, your dreams will come true. Another one is learning is not a spectator sport. So let's play. We're not going to sit, we're going to play. Here's one that's a launch at the door, because I know my launches out the door tend to be missed because I get going in class, lose track of time, and forget to launch them. And they're running out the door as I do the launch. But a launch may also be, hey, we're going to launch before everybody stands up and leaves. So don't leave until we do the launch. And it may be go be amazing. And then they know you have officially ended your class and you are allowing them to leave. It's kind of more the routine. So, this is another Rita Person. She did this. She told her each and every student, "I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I'm strong. I deserve the education that I get here." Now, she was in a lower socioeconomic disadvantaged school, but there are so many of our students that need to hear that. So maybe that is your launch you give them every year, every day. I am somebody, I'll be somebody. I was somebody when I came, I'll be a better person when I leave. I'm powerful and strong, and I deserve the education I'm getting. So that is a launch you can give them as well. Now, these are some roles that I gave that we've talked about. So some of these we've already talked about. The group leaders, they facilitate group work. Task keepers keep it on task. Mentors, Mentors are great because you can pair them up with slower learners or ELL students, and they help each other out. And we know that mentoring actually improves student scores, even for the person who's the mentor. So it's always good. And then, of course, having student greeters, class ambassadors, all that. I think we've talked about all those roles. But giving those students the role to do that and giving them the power to be a part of that role and to see their classroom as a city or a community, however you want to say it, where we all have roles to play and each role is vital and important in our class. And we need to uphold those roles. Now, these roles I would switch every month or every quarter or every 6 weeks, however you want to, but don't keep the class ambassador the same for all year. And your class ambassador may be something more person you select because you know you see that natural leader in your class, but they can help that will help your sub, your whoever comes in, who won't be afraid to go to the acknowledge a administrator. But you want to rotate these roles so they're not always the same. So everybody gets a chance to be a leader. Everybody gets a chance to be a mentor. Or greeter as you build that. So to rotate these roles throughout the year. Now, Flip Flippin is the founder and chairman of Capturing Kids' Hearts. So now we're actually on the end of my thing. We are actually talking about resources for you and your class. And his little saying is, if you have child's, if you have a child's heart, you have his head. So if you can build that relationship, he will learn. Same thing that Rita Pearson was learning, that all no good significant learning goes without relationships. So that you can look in. They also have websites, but you can look at you can just Google capturing kids' hearts. They will give you examples of launches, of kids, examples of social contracts, examples of behavior charts and plans, and signals that we were giving. And then Harry Wong, we all kind of know that about the first day of school. He actually, um, his wife and him wrote some books, and every time I mentor a new teacher, I try to find them a even if it's at half price books, I try to give them the book, The First Days Last Forever, or whatever it is, First Days of School. So he's like, you have to set up what you're doing in that first days of school to be successful. Now you can restart and say, hey guys, this isn't working for us. We need to restart it. But he is more on setting up that discipline, setting up the routine to be successful. And one of his things also is have that wall to show what you are, show them your degree, show them you have kids, show them who you are so your students see you as human. All right. And then these are just some further information that will help you building relationships. There's some videos that I did not have time to put in here, but TED talks about building relationship with your student. I think that's actually Rita Pearson. I'm not sure, but and then Edutopia video, Power of Relationships in Schools, and then some of the others. But these are just little videos you can look at that we did not have time to. And then, of course, Rita Pearson, TED Talk, when she did it, some of the things she said, kids don't learn from people they don't like. Human connection is your key to your classroom. And teaching and learning should bring joy. They should want to be in class, and you should want to be there. And every child deserves an adult that will never give up on them. So many of our students they say, that two negative teachers makes that student 70 times more likely to drop out of school. And so, what the power of a positive teacher could do. Imagine that. And then I've had teachers, and I have a son who has Asperger's, and some of those teachers are like, oh man, I don't want to do with them. But his third grade teacher actually said, I chose you to be in my class because she knew about him and she chose him. And that started our year off so well. So let them know, hey, you may not have chosen, but say, you were chosen to be in my class. And then students, you want to hear them say, you make me feel like I'm somebody. And this job is tough, but we're educators and we're born to make a difference. So let's start with relationships. Thank you so much for being a part of this talk. I'll give you my email address. You can email me. I will be glad to give you references and solutions, this PowerPoint, whatever will help you. I am the share queen in my district. They know it, and I don't mind it because we are a team and we need to collaborate to make our success better. But my email is melissa.thurman@risd.org. My Gmail is msthurman@g.risd.org. And my name is spelled Melissa, and Thurman is T as in Tom, HURMAN. And I would love to hear from you, see if there's anything we can improve on, anything that helped you. And I want your year to be successful. So build great relationships. Thank you so much.